All right, welcome back, everybody, to Intro to Coding Day 7. We are officially on our last week for the Intro to Coding Live, and we have started our mini project week, which I like to think this is the most exciting part of the course, because up to this point, you guys pretty much have all the tools that you guys need to be successful, right? Um, we cover every single subject. You've heard it from me multiple times. You've heard it from Guillermo, right? What you're going to be tested on: variables, assignments, reassignments, loops, manipulating strings and lists, and accessing and modifying key pairs, key value pairs in dictionaries. Thank you, Dante, keeping me on track like always. The link for our attendance sheets, let's go ahead and send that out. Here it is. But these days are typically a little bit shorter, right? The last week are going to be a little bit shorter, uh, more recording wise, right? Not shorter in time length, but recording wise. So if for any of you guys watching at home, or if you guys be watching this later, don't be surprised the video is only like an hour long. That's because these days I like to do a lot of group work. So we do the mini projects. The way it's going to work is we're going to talk about the assignments. We'll talk about what it's asking of you, maybe talk about our thought processes, where this project is, making us think, how we might want to start this or engage the project. And then we will break off into even teams um, to give it an honest try, right? And then you guys will take about 30 to 40 minutes with the assignments. And then we'll come back. If a team was able to complete, they would present the assignment. Um, if no one completed it, then I would take over and I will do a talk through code along with the assignment. I don't have an answer key to these, so I do remember a little bit from them because I've taught them these multiple times. So I'll have a little bit of an idea of what I'm doing, but for the most part, I don't have the answer key, so I'll be starting from scratch every single time. So I might get stuck here or there, and that's okay. If you guys see something that I might miss, then let me know. Um, but the reason why we do group work, um, and really the term I really want to use is pair programming, is because when we're coding, we tend to get tunnel vision, right? It's almost like we're horses with blinders the moment we start looking at our code. And we sometimes, especially when we first start off, we get very hyper fixated on very specific points of our code. Like we lose track of the grand scheme of things, or what, what the question is really asking of us. Um, so it's easy to miss stuff, especially syntax. As beginner coders, our biggest enemy is syntax issues, because we might miss a colon, a parentheses, maybe we didn't type something the right way. And I've been guilty of that myself, being up to this point in my career. Sometimes I have syntax issues too, and that's okay. But sometimes you're like in the zone and you're just coding and you're putting, uh, I guess, quote unquote pen to paper, and then you miss something, right? So we like to do group work, or we also like to do, what we prefer to do is like pair programming, where we typically pair you up with somebody else, so it's two people. And the way that works is, one person is coding. This is the person who is driving, and then one person is navigating, right? This is a passenger. The driver is typically the one who's sharing the screen. He's the one that's coding the exercise, putting the code in, and the passenger is just watching you, right? Um, watching what you're doing, making suggestions, kind of talking you through the thought process and the game plan. And it typically will usually see something that you miss, right? Whether it be syntax, right, indentation, whether you start getting hyperfixated on a part of the problem. The navigator typically has a much more global scope view of stuff, so they can see stuff that you might not see. For my military service members, think of this like CQB. You have the people inside the room, and then you have the people on the catwalk. They're watching you. They'll see stuff that you guys typically might not see when you're inside the room. Something similar to that, right? So the navigator's role is very important to ensure that you kind of stay on track, or you don't lose sight of the problem. Um, and yeah, it's just helping each other out. So we do something like that in the immersive program, but because it's a much bigger group, and it's just me, we're gonna do group work. So when I break you guys into groups, one person should share the screen, and the rest of you guys are going to be quote unquote navigating. But at the same time, I also want you to make sure that you are coding your own problem on your screen to ensure that you have the code as well. Because it's still important that you get to practice it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into today's mini project. Today's a lot simpler. The next 2 days are a lot more fun and a lot more complex. So we start out very easy. And the first one is going to be exercise one, manipulate text, right? This one's very straightforward. You have a very long piece of text here, what seems to be a description of a location, right? Nestled in the heart of the Pacific Northwest, Washington State is a mesmerizing blend of natural wonders and urban sophistication. And really, it's just talking to you through about Washington State and what you might find there, right? The text itself doesn't really matter here in the context. What your goal is to identify the longest sentence by word count, right? And the word count is really what's important here, because just because a sentence looks long doesn't necessarily mean that it has more words than another one. So just be very aware of that. So their goal is you're going to take it a string, you're going to break it apart sentence by sentence, figure out the length of each sentence, and then find the longest one, and then return that. Simple as that, right? Not too crazy, very straightforward. When working with text, right, manipulating, what kind of method could you use that's going to assist you in breaking it apart? Not you,
For
Dante.
loop, a loop.
Okay, a loop could be helpful. Yeah, we might need a loop here because we're going to have multiple sentences. How can we break this string apart? Is there a built-in function to do this? What function is that, David? Donsky said it already in
Not
the
sure.
chat. The dot split method. This is a built-in method, right? That comes from day one, Python data type methods, string, slicing string, string operations, and methods. We have string slicing, reversing strings, upper, lower, capitalized, title, dot strip, starts with, ends with, find, count, replace, dot split. Here we go. Split the string into a list of substrings based on a specific delimiter, right? This dot split method is nothing new. We talked about it briefly day one. And that's okay if you guys forgot. This is the point of these exercises, right? The dot split method is one of those methods that you should have in the back of your pocket because it'll come in handy when you guys are doing your live technical assessment. And really, it's going to come in handy for the rest of your career working with code. I've used the dot split method a lot. It's a very helpful method when manipulating text. As you see here, we have the string of a date assigned to the variable called date string. Uh, they create a different variable called split date, where they're passing in the original variable date string and they're invoking the dot split method on it. Notice they're passing in the forward slash in here, right? This is the delimiter, right? This is where they plan to split this string at, right? So with that in mind, how would I split this list into individual sentences?
Punctuation.
Probably punctuation, right? Maybe at every period. Um, we wouldn't want to do that at every space because there's spaces between the words. So the punctuation is probably going to be a good bet to where we want to split it up. Once we use a split method, it's going to return to us what?
The different sentences.
In what form?
A list.
In a list, right? And then I heard someone mention earlier a loop, right? Now that we have our string broken down into a data structure like a list, we can use loops to iterate through them and so on and so forth. All right, there we go. I started you off pretty easily on that one. You're going to run into one issue, and I'll let you figure that one out later on your own. And then we'll tackle that one before we move on to the second one. So let's make sure we can get through this one first before we move on to the next one. So time is 6:14. I don't think we'll need 30 minutes, but just to make sure, we'll give you guys 30 minutes. So I'll break you guys apart. If you are not working or if you are not in your room, I'm sorry, if you're not working, you're not behind your computer, and I have you in a group, please don't go into the group. Just stay out here. Um, because I've had it where I put, people in groups and there's like four people and then three people are like one's driving, one's cooking, one with the kid, which is fine. I don't mind. But I just want to make sure the person that is in there has someone they can work with. So if you aren't actively coding or behind your computer and you can work along with us, let me know, and then you guys can just wait out here while the people who are working can. And that way when I bring everyone back, everyone can just watch the result of it all. Thank you, Donkey, for the heads up. Let me go ahead and open up the breakout rooms. There's 15. I'm 14, 13. Let's do. Give me a second. Anybody else besides Donkey is gonna stay out here?
Put me in, coach.
All right. Jason, Jason, are you there?
Ah, yes.
How's it going, Jason?
Good,
We
good. How are you?
are doing our mini projects. We are in individual rooms, in groups. So let me go ahead and send you somewhere so you can work with a group.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Donsky, I'm gonna put you in a room since every room is pretty much stacked. It should be an issue if you're not helping out. But that way, in case you want to come off mic, maybe throw in some info or just watch, you can do that too. So let me go ahead and send you somewhere. All right. in the cradle and the silver spoon. Daddy boy blue and the man in the moon. When you're coming home, son, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. Okay. Cats in the.
Tell you right now, them folks are raising an absolute legend.
Hey, Roger.
How's it going?
I think we know the right route to.
Ready? So I saw some great progress. Dante's team was probably the one the most ahead, but that's because Dante's done this before, so that doesn't count. Uh, but let's go ahead and get this an honest try. So the first question that was asked by a team, what do I do with this? Do I have to import it somewhere? Really, all you have to do is double click this, and then you want to bring this downwards into your cell block below, right? So I could say something like sentence is equal to, oh man, gotta copy again. All right, and they put it in there. All right. And that should do it for now. Now, I could have done this, or honestly, you could just copy it and then put it somewhere over here as well, if you like. Some people prefer working here. Like we could have done something like sentence is equal to, and then I like this area because I can do something like word wrap. If I go to view, oh, it's not gonna let me do word wrap in here. That's lame. Uh,
I love it when stuff doesn't work for you. It makes me feel so much better.
it does work. Look at that in your face, Myra. In your face.
Whatever. Whatever, smarty.
So, word wrap is awesome because it lets you see your string, especially when it's super long. Just wraps it together, it stays within the screen. But here is my sentence, and I'm gonna use this screen because makes it easier for everyone to see it. But when it comes to manipulating strings, the first thing that comes to your mind is how do I break this string apart, right? I need to see what is my longest sentence by word, but it's all conjoined within the string, so I need to break it apart, right? And that's one of the biggest principles when it comes to coding is really breaking big problems into smaller problems. So I'm gonna break it apart. I'm gonna say list of sentences is equal to sentence dot split, right? And we talked about this before we went to our breakout rooms. We can leverage the split method, which is a string specific method, right, to break it apart. And as we talked about earlier, it takes a delimiter. So it takes a specific breakpoint, right? Where within the sentence do you want to break it apart from? And I'm going to break it apart at every period, because that seems to be the common trend here. Well, in the English grammar, right? So here's one sentence. It ends here at this period, followed by this next sentence. Here's a period, and then so on and so forth. So I can probably do the period to grab every sentence. And now, before I actually start, yes,
Roger, just real quick, not to complicate it more. Obviously, it does look like they're all periods. What if you wanted to do it by all punctuation points, like a period, question mark, and exclamation point?
um, you there's a much more powerful methods you could use. Split method is very basic, straightforward, which takes one delimiter. I would recommend regex, right, which is out of scope, but regex is a much more powerful means of filtering out strings, which you will learn if you join Foundations of Programming. Continue on. So here is list of sentences. We have sentence.split. And before I start working with the sentences, I love to see what my code is doing before I move on, right? Print and print often, right? Print is a great debugging tool. So let's go ahead and see what my code is doing. I'm going to say for sentence and list of sentences, print sentence. right? Some of you guys like to jump straight in there and start grabbing indexes and formatting. Don't do that just yet. Just look at what your code's doing first. Are you grabbing what you think you're grabbing? Right? And I am, right? And just to make sure it's better format, let's do index, comma, sentence, and enumerate. And I'm doing this so I can grab every index and I can print both of them out so I can see the starts of every sentence and the sentence itself. Because it looked a little jumbled up here, right? But here it gives a much better idea of where my sentence starts and ends, right? So here's my first sentence, my second, and so on and so forth. And I already see something weird happening here. I see this 8 and an empty space, right? And I can only assume that when it split up at the very end, it took this one literally. It grabbed the last sentence here that starts at Washington. It split up at this period, and then it left me another sentence that was empty, right? So I'm getting some weird functionality here, but that's okay. Nothing to worry about. Really, it won't make too much of a difference because I'm looking for the longest word count, so it is what it is. But I just wanted to make sure I noted that so you guys can see like there's some weird stuff happening here, and that's why, right? Because the last sentence also ends with a period, so it's going to treat it as such, try to split it up. Even though it's an empty string, it's still counting it as part of the string and saving an index for it. But that's okay. Now, if I didn't like that, I could do some string slicing, and I could have said like up to -1. And now I no longer have that one there. So, I could kind of mess around a little bit more here, not worry about that last one because it's not an actual sentence. And now I only have one, that 0 through 7. So, cool. So now I see here is my list. But what else do you guys notice here that you guys might have missed that every single team except obviously Dante's missed? Take a good look at my sentences. What do you see?
Number 2.
Well,
Yeah, mount is abbreviated with a period, so it's separated as a sentence.
Right. We got some weird functionality. Did you guys catch this or did you see it right now?
Oh, I'm seeing it now.
Just,
Yeah.
just now.
I
Right.
was wondering how we would print out the list like we have it now, the 1 through 7. I didn't, my brain didn't know how.
That's okay. But yeah, now we're seeing here, and once again, this honestly just re-emphasize why it's important that before you start writing all this code, you're watching what your code is doing step by step. Print and print often, right? I love saying that. Print and print often. It's gonna help you a lot of headaches. And now we see here that I'm getting some weird functionality. Mount is being treated as the stop of a sentence. Now, we could use regex to do this. There's a much simpler method of doing it. We could say something like formatted sentence. And really
Not
all
allowed.
we're going come again.
Not allowed. You haven't taught me that one. So how could we fix it with what I know?
Oh, no, we're gonna do something that
Okay.
I'm not using regex.
Oh,
Regex
okay. Good job.
would have been very helpful, but because we don't have regex, we'll use a much simpler method, which is a little bit more deliberate. But that's okay. This is a method that was taught to you guys, and that's gonna be the replace method, right? So if I open up lesson 1
Mhm.
in the same location where we talked about, let me zoom out a little bit, where we talked about the dot split, right? We have dot split here. Right above it, you have dot replace. Replaces all occurrences of a specified substring with another string, right? So this was a little bit more deliberate, but it'll work for what we have now, and we're also using something that we talked about. So this takes a string, like date string here. It invokes the dot replace method. You pass in what you want to replace, which in this case is the /, and then you pass in what you want to replace it with. So I'm going to leverage this method, and I'm going to say sentence dot replace, and I'm going to replace, where are you? Here it is. Mount Rainier. I'm going to replace Mount Rainier with Mount Rainier, not abbreviated. All right, removing that period. And let me just go ahead and update the sentence below here to formatted sentence because obviously I'm changing it beforehand. And then let's run this now. And now instead of that 7 I was getting earlier, now I'm only getting 6, right? And look at here, number 2. Among these peaks, comma, Mount Rainier stands as a sentinel. So we were able to fix the string, make sure that we don't have any issues with that abbreviation of MT. We didn't use anything out of scope, right? We used built-in methods that were covered on day 1, right? So, we're still using the stuff that we've covered to be able to work with this the string here. Dot replace isn't a very common method. It came in use here. So, you should have an idea of how it works now. You can have it in the back of your pocket. But I would say if there's any method to take away from here, definitely the dot split method will give you more use than the dot replace. But as you see here, dot replace can still help you in certain situations. So now we have all these sentences formatted how they should be. I have access to each one of them individually. Now let's get to work. Well, I need to know what is the longest sentence by word count. So obviously the simple method here is you might think, well, I should use length. Length is going to return to me the length of my string, but not by word. It's going to return it by character count, right? So it'll quite literally count every letter as well as punctuation and spacing. And that's not what we want, right? We want word count. So who can tell me how can I count every individual word within one individual sentence?
I know what method I went with, but you said there was a better one, so I want to know.
Yeah, let's just split it just the same way we did the paragraph, right? So we want to split every single item in here. Well, if I did something like list of sentences dot split and I try to split it at every space, this wouldn't work, right? Why wouldn't it work? Jose.
Repeat the question.
The commas?
Because you're not diving into each string within the list.
Correct. I am using the dot split method on a list of strings. But I need this dot split method is a string specific method. I can't invoke it on a data structure like a list. I need to dive in, just like you said, grab each individual string one at a time, and then I split each one. So within here, I'm gonna grab I'm gonna say split sentence is equal to sentence dot split. And I'm going to split it at every space. And let's print out index, comma, split sentence and see what it looks like. Print and print often. But I'm getting some weird issue here. List object has no attribute split. Print sentence. What are you talking about, Willis? Oh, my bad. I still have this up here. So it's giving me an error. I was like, what are you talking about? I know I didn't mess this up. There we go. So here is each individual sentence split up at every space, right? There's a couple weird ones here, right? What do you see is weird? What might give me an issue here?
You got empty strings.
I got empty strings, right? Because there's empty spacing from the left and maybe the right on some of these when I split it up. Because initially I split my string up at every period, right? So the next string right here starts with a space. So it's giving me a wrong reading. Now you might think, well, it shouldn't be a big issue, Roger. It's only one letter. But what if sentence one and sentence two were even in word counts, and this extra space just added that in, that extra word to mess me up. So even though it's small and fractional, it could still mess up if I was working with a lot of different sentences. Chances are I might run into two that are probably equal, where that spacing could probably throw off my numbers. So before I split it up, I probably want to remove that empty spacing. What method do I have that can remove white space?
Maybe
Karen, dot strip. Absolutely. Dot strip is the method that I was thinking about. It should be one of the lower ones. Where are you? Dot strip.
There it is.
Removes leading and trailing white space from a string. So before I split it, I need to strip it so I don't have any white space, right? If you guys recall this lesson, this had a white space here, and in result, this will return this. So before I split it, I'm going to say dot strip, followed by dot split. So really, I'm just kind of chaining both this methods. When this runs, it's going to grab the sentence, it's going to strip it, and then after it's stripped, it's going to split it. If you want a better way of seeing this could be stripped sentence is equal to sentence dot strip. And then here, instead of chaining them, we can say strip sentence dot split, right? I'm just showing you here line by line what actually happened in case the chaining of methods confuses you. Danny, you have a question?
Yeah, so that dot strip doesn't have a parameter because it's by default, right? It does it by default.
Yeah, so I didn't build it, but I can show you the documentation for it from W3 Schools. Dot strip. That's just how it's built. Whoever created this method. My computer's lagging a little bit. There we go. I can show you here. Remove spaces at the beginning and at the end of the string. Dot strip method removes any leading. Here's the syntax for it. String dot strip. Characters is optional. A set of characters to remove as leading or trailing characters. By default, it looks like it removes spacing, but if there is like some trailing characters, I could also remove that. So that's cool. But yeah, that's how that works. I might have actually used the dot strip method to remove that what's it called? That period from my original paragraph before splitting it. That could have helped there, right? But yeah, the dot strip method doesn't take any arguments. It does have one that's optional, right? Which is characters. But because I don't have anything specific like that, I'm just gonna use the dot strip on its own, and it'll give me what I need. Now I run this, and this is a lot of mumbo jumbo. Let's go ahead and clear my terminal real quick and run it again. But there you go. Now we have the formatted sentences with no spaces. It's good to go. I don't have any issues with words like mounts, any abbreviations. So let's go ahead and continue.
Roger, real quick, can you explain I guess the end of the for loop right there with the -1?
Right. So this is list slicing. So if I didn't add this, what this is going to do is going to grab every element from this list, which is fine. But earlier we saw here that I had an additional element in my list of sentences that was pretty much just empty. Now, why I got this additional element? Well, because when I initially used the dot split method on my paragraph here, it split it at every period. And at the very end, after the last sentence, there's a period here. So it quite literally split the lack of content and the sentence to the left. And even though there's nothing to the right of this period, it's tracking that actually split it here at this period. Therefore, it gave me an additional item here. Even though there's nothing here, it's tracking it as an empty item. So
Right.
I didn't want this. I mean, it wouldn't make a difference, even if I count this one
Right.
in my code. But just for the sake of not having it, I used list slicing. So my start point, I didn't put anything in here. So by default, it's going to start at the very beginning. But for my end point, I want to end it up to, but not including the last index.
Got
Right?
it.
That's
Okay.
what -1 is doing. Make sense?
Okay. Yes. Cool. Thank you.
No problem. So now that we have that, I need to check my longest sentence, and I need to figure out which one of these has the longest word count or the biggest word count. For some reason, you guys struggled so hard with this concept, but use your variables, your data structures, and your data types. If I wanted to track which one of these sentences has the highest word count, how do I do that? Well, I can create a list or a dictionary that keeps a record of every sentence I've encountered and their word count. That's one way. Or I could create variables, one for the max word count and one that's going to hold the longest sentence. That's another way. And that's the way I'm going to go with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable called word count. And I'm going to set this to 0. Because when I first start this for loop, I have yet to go through any sentence. So my word count should be set to 0. I have not found any sentence yet. And because before I start, I haven't found the longest sentence yet. So I'm just going to leave it as an empty string. These are my counters, right? These are my tracking variables. This is the variables I'm going to use to update and then compare against as I go through my for loop. So as I strip the sentence and then I split it up, I want to check the length of the sentence. So let's go ahead and print that out. Let's print length of split sentence. And here it is. Here's the length of every single sentence within this list of sentences. And I can already see here which one is the greatest one. 35, which seems to be the 5th sentence in my list of sentences, right? That 5th one here is the one I'm looking for. But I can't just run this, find the longest one, and then just leave it as it is. My code needs to do all this for me. So here, I need to make sure my code is able to identify which one is the longest sentence. So I'm going to say, if the length of my split sentence is greater than word count, then I need to update my word count. Word count is going to equal the length of split sentence. Right? The first sentence I get is going to have 20 words. My word count is currently set to 0 because I just started. So obviously, 20 is greater than 0. So therefore, I need to update what my word count is. I'm going to set it to 20. That's going to allow me to know that the biggest word count I've encountered is 20. And also, once I figure out the sentence length and I've found a new greatest word count sentence, I'm going to update the longest sentence is equal to, and I'm going to say my split sentence in here, but I'm going to join it together at every space. Pretty much all I'm doing here is rejoining it. right? Why am I doing this? Well, because remember, split sentence is currently split up into a list of individual words. I want to bring it back to be a complete string. So we can use the dot join method, right? This is another method that should have been, I remember correctly, should have been covered in here. I think it's one of the last ones. Let's check. Uh, Boom, join. It's all in here. Joins a list of strings into a single string using the current string as a separator, right? So this is how you join it pretty much. What am I doing here? Whatever. I don't remember what this is doing anymore. Point is, I'm joining them together. All right. I'm joining every individual word with a space in between them. It's very similar to the split method. The split method, I told it where to split it at. Here, I'm telling it what to join them with, right? So if I wanted to, I could put hash dashes here. I could put a forward slash. I could put an at symbol. This is what they will be joined with. But because I want it to look like a sentence, I'm gonna leave a empty space here to specify, hey, you're gonna join these sentences to get these words together with spaces in between. Make sense, guys? Now, the first time this runs, 20 is my longest sentence. So we update word count to 20, and longest sentence is going to equal to whatever that sentence is. The next one is going to have 28 words. So we're going to update it again. We're going to get to the next one, which is 20. Because the length of our sentence is not greater than 28, because it's 20, then it won't run this. Right? So we could, if you wanted to, for good measure, we could say else continue, but it'll be redundant. If there's nothing else that follows here, nothing's gonna happen. It won't run this if statement, and there's no other code for it to run, so we don't really have to put continue because it's just redundant. But at the very end, I'm going to print out word count followed by longest sentence. And I see here my longest sentence was the one that was 35. And here is that sentence. Join together. And that is the end of that exercise. Do I have any questions?
It's without fail exactly what you said the other day. It's like I can understand exactly what you're doing as you go through it. I understand the concepts, but then when you're given that blank slate, it's a completely different ballgame.
Absolutely. I told you guys, I'm not wrong, right? It without fail every single time. The number one thing that people bring up is I understand the concepts, Roger. I've been in the videos, I've been in your classes, but the moment I get behind that question, I have no idea what I'm doing. Right? And that's understandable. The only way you get better at it is really by doing it. There's no shortcut. I'm sorry to say that. There's no way. It's kind of like, how do you get better at public speaking? Like, there's no shortcuts in public speaking besides getting in front of people and speaking. Like, that is the only way to get better at public speaking, to be put in that scenario. That no other way. Literally no other way. Maybe like streaming or like doing this, talking to you over video camera. This is a good step, but still, I'm speaking to you anyways in public, right? This is our public, but in a sense, you have to do it to get better at it. That's the same thing here with, coding and doing these exercises. You have to be put in that situation where you are just left speechless until you find a solution, right? Until you start breaking the problem apart, dissecting it, right? Understanding the keywords, and then just critically thinking, problem solving. These are all things that should be happening while you're going through these problems. And you don't get better at it by not doing it. You kind of have to be put in a situation. But we went a little too long. Let's go ahead and go on our 10-minute break. I'm sorry. Time 7:30. Let's come back at 7:40, and then we will go into our last exercise for the night. Welcome back, everybody. Let's go ahead and come back for our last assignment for the night. We just finished exercise 1, which was manipulate text. Now we are going to start the phone number scrubber. All right. We should all be seeing my screen. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So imagine you are working for a company that has a list of customer phone numbers in various formats. Your task is to standardize these phone numbers. Here we have a dictionary called customers, where the keys are going to be the names of the customers and the values are the phone numbers. Right? You may notice that the phone numbers are all in different types of formats. Right? Some are split with the periods, some have hyphens, parentheses, some just have spaces, others are all conjoined together. And then one actually has like the area code or the country code formatted as it should, where some might not have a country code, right? So we have a lot of different numbers here. And it's going to be up to us to format them to a similar standard. So you're going to write a function, right? Write a function that checks if all the phone numbers in the below dictionary are United States numbers, which means they would have a country code of +1. If a number is not, that customer should be moved to a new dictionary called foreign customers. A number with no country code is assumed to be in the United States if the phone number is 10 digits, right? Additionally, the United States numbers should be formatted as, and here you have your format, right? You have the first 7 numbers like normal, right? The first 4, then it's followed by 3, and there's a dash between them. After that, the next 3 are going to be your area code, right? I'm reading from right to left. This is how it would look like if it was a US number and it didn't have a country code. We can assume that this is a US number and this is the format they should be in, right? If for whatever reason they have a country code or a country number and it's like +2 or +5 or something different. When I was in Italy, we had +39. So if you have something that's not the 10 digits, for example, this is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If there's no area code, or I keep saying this wrong, if there's no country code and there's some more than 10 original digits, then you can assume it is a foreign customer, right? But if there's no country code, if there is, yes, Sky Soldier, they're her, baby. I was part of 54 BEB. But yeah, so that's how we do it, right? So this should be your format. Now, this is not going to be the dictionary you're using. The dictionary will be here, right? It's a lot more than what you see there on the first example. You should have enough to actually mess around with. There is like a +5 I see in here, and so on and so forth. +5. What else do we have in here? +4. But pretty much you have enough numbers to practice with. Here we have 4, 3, 3. Okay, this one doesn't have country code. But all right. Do I have any questions? We have someone leave, or 2 people leave. They struggle with the first one. They're like, I can't do the next one. That's okay. I'm sure they're busy. Let me go ahead and pause the recording and we're going to jump into our breakout rooms. We will come back at 8:20, and then we'll do a talk through walkthrough. I just
think
skipped
me.
all that.
Oh, nice.
I recorded nothing. I'm sorry.
No, it's cool. It's yeah, I think I see now. We have what you called earlier a counter, which is the formatted number, but the counter is nested within the function.
Yeah, it's a form of a tracker, right? You're using it as
Yeah.
a temporary variable that you can use to manipulate as you go through your answer,
Okay,
your
so
solution.
okay, I prepped up an empty box. I'm in the garage. I got an empty box. I prepped it, right? So now this function or that I'm doing here is really like a process I'm doing in the garage or something. I'm just trying to make this as layman as I can.
Yeah,
So,
I got two boxes. One
yeah,
box is the current number, and the other box is that formatted number. It's empty. There's nothing in there. I started as an empty string. I'm going to go through every single character in that number, and I'm gonna pull a character out. Is this numeric? Yes, it is. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the other box. Then I grab the next character. Is this numeric? Nope, I don't care for it. And I do that over and over again until I grab every single character, and I only care for the ones that are numbers. If they are, I'm going to add
gotcha.
it.
So if it's true, that index will then, if it's a character, it'll go into the new box, and then not true, it'll just stay out. So if it's a blank, whatever.
Correct.
Okay, I think I get it now. Yeah.
Awesome. So we got it working so far. Now what's next?
So now you have your box of numbers here, all together. And so now you want to create new dictionaries, essentially, is what this thing was asking for in the beginning. We're doing all this to essentially make new dictionaries, foreign dictionaries.
I think length is next. We're gonna need to figure
Probably,
out length.
yeah, probably length, right? Let's see if there's 10 numbers in here or not. If there is, then that means it's a US number, and all we have to do is just format it as such. Um, so let's do that. Here that we have the first one. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So all these have 10 characters. I can safely assume that these are all US numbers. So if they have 10 characters, right, or um 10 numbers, then I'm going to format them with the hyphen where they should be. If they're higher than 10 numbers, I'm gonna do something else. But we'll get to that one in a little bit. Now we're gonna say if length of formatted number is equal to 10, formatted number is going to equal to, and now I'm going to do the formatting for this. How do I do this? Well, um, these are US numbers. I want everything to have the same standard, right? Your task to standardize these phone numbers. So this is what a US number looks like, but as you already know, some numbers have +1 and whatnot. So they should probably all still have an area code. So I might, even though they only have 10 numbers, I might want to make sure that we also add that US country code in here. So what I'm probably going to do is I could say something like, let's do a formatted string. It's going to start with +1. We'll do a dash, and then we'll add the first part of our three numbers. So we'll say formatted number. We'll graph from the start up to index 3, followed by a dash. This time we'll get formatted number from 3 up to what index? 4, 5, 6. I want to say index 6, followed by a dash, and then formatted number from index 6 all the way to the right. And let's see if this works. And there you have it. +1, 1, 2, 3, dash 4, 5, 6, dash 7, 8, 9, 0. So this is working exactly how I want it to work. This is if they have 10 numbers. Because as we saw here, the United States numbers should be formatted as XXX, XXX, XXXX, right? A number with no country code is assumed to be in the United States if the number is 10 digits. Because this number is 10 digits, I can safely assume it's a US number. But I'm also trying to standardize them all. We already have some US numbers with +1, so I'm just going to keep it to the same standard. So I'm gonna add that +1 to make sure they're all the same. But I can already safely assume they're US numbers because they already only have 10 numbers. Does that make sense with everybody? Right. So that is what I'm going to do if it is 10 numbers long. Now, here's the next one. If the length of formatted number is equal to 11, this is where it might get a little confusing. Well, not really. We just have to check that first index. If it's 11 characters, that means there's a country code. So we need to check that first index, really index 0, and see if it's a 1. If formatted number at index 0 is equal to 1, then we're going to format it like we did above. But this time, I'm going to remove
Question.
answer.
Instead of doing a nested like if statement under that elif, could you just do elif like format number is equal
David,
to 11
I'm going to stop you
and
there. I'm going to do it
okay.
elifs only because I want to make sure everyone understands every single step. But there is more efficient ways to do it. Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to stop you there because I only have 14 minutes left for you guys and I want to do everything. But yes, there's definitely more efficient ways of doing this stuff. I want to show you guys line by line everything that's happening here so you can see why I'm doing it the way I'm doing, so you can understand the concept and what my thought process is. I didn't mean to cut you off, David. I'm on limited time and I do not want to keep people here past a lot of time because I respect everyone's time.
Yeah, no, you're good.
And let's see if this one works. This one did not give me what I wanted. Let's see, formatted number. Maybe because I have it a list statement. Else pass. No, it's not liking that. Formatted number at index 0 dash index 1 1 2 3. What did we say? Supposed to be 4 4 7 7. Why are you not being formatted? Oh, is it because it's an integer? There we go. I was checking if the item at index 0 was equal to 1, but we have to remember that we're working with strings. So I had to make sure it was the string version of 1. Because it wasn't checking. It was failing that elif statement. So here we go. These are working so far. Now if they're not equal to 1, what does that mean?
Foreign number.
Foreign.
They're a foreign number, right? So we might want to create a foreign number, foreign customers, I think it was. We'll add curly braces there, and then that means we're going to pass it into the formatted number. We'll pass in the customer name in here, and then we're going to assign to them. Let's do this for now. I want to see what it looks like because I don't remember how this is going to look. And right now we're going to get this, but let's go ahead and pass in customers instead. And let's look for a foreign number. I see +1 1 1 1 1. Oh, we're only printing out customers. Let's also print out print foreign customers. Let's see what they look like. I got no one in here. Oh Lord. If length of, we'll say elif, the length of formatted. Oh, actually, this should probably be not here, but it should be in here. Else, formatted customer. I am getting an issue on line 29 where passing. Oh, this was my bad. Foreign customers. There we go. Here's my foreign customers. I have 1, 0, 9, 9, 8. I don't have any double numbers, so that's good.
Are
I
you
don't have
allowed to do that double equals?
for what?
If you scroll down on that where you added it right there, yeah, foreign customers is equal, formatted number equal, and then the formatted string.
You can, but thank you for pointing it out. I shouldn't have this. There we go. Let's add a plus sign here. So here is my four numbers. Let's get my regular numbers in here, just double check those are good. And everything is good. We got oh, there's a weird one here. 7, this is 4, 3. Here is 10, but we have a 9. That is no bueno. Why is that one in there? Hmm. I have another weird one right here. It's working to a certain extent, but I see some weird ones in here that are somehow passing, even though they have a 3. This is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So if length of so this will pass, but this should not pass. Why are they being added in there? Foreign customers. I'm a little
Would it
confused.
would it
Yes.
matter if you changed your else to that if into an elif and strictly said, length of formatted number check against 11?
Let's see. Foreign customer. Crystal Cortez is still getting in here when she should not be. If the length of format number is equal to 11, which is good, it'll run this. But somehow, even though this is not equal to 1, it's still adding her in there, which is not correct.
Oh, never mind. I was thinking maybe because it grabbed like a plus or something, but we already stripped those out.
I am confused at why it's adding Crystal Cortez. Does anybody see anything I don't see in my code, or why I would add Crystal Cortez in here? Oh, I know why. Okay, I understand why. The logic of my code. So what happens if they're a foreign number? Well, that's cool. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add them to customers. But guess what I'm still doing at the end of it all? I'm still adding them to numbers of customers, right? And that's not what we want. Um, there's probably a better way of doing this, but I can just pass it in here. And it's only going to add them to that number of customers if they match those. If not, they will be foreign customers. And now when I run this, Crystal Cortez is nowhere to be seen, which is exactly what I wanted. Everything was good so far. It was just that I still had that line at the very end. So even though they were being added to foreign customer, they were still being added to my regular one, which was not good. And I see another one. No, what are you doing here? I see. Why is there still being added here? Let's go ahead and clear this real quick. Let me just make sure I'm not getting a weird functionality here. As a matter of fact, let's iterate one by one. For num and numbers, print num. Numbers dot values or dot items. Person, comma, let's do person. All right, so here is each person. And look at this. David Smith, Crystal Cortez. If the length of formatted number is equal to 11, then we go down here. If formatted number at index 0 is 1, then we add them in there. Else, they should be added to foreign customers. Why are you guys being added in here with +9?
Is it because you're doing it before you activate your function?
No.
Because isn't the last line where you're calling the function?
Yeah,
Oh,
but
it's
it's
in
just a
the function.
definition.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's just say else here. If that's much better. Let's see if it's happening again or not. Yeah, they're still in here, but this time they don't have dashes. They're just being added within here. I'm not quite sure where this is happening. I'll have to go back and debug my code. Why these are making it through 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It definitely won't pass this one. So I know the issue isn't here. But then when I get to my else statement, this is where I'm checking. If the length of the formatted number is 11. So if it's equal to 11, they're going to come in here. If it is equal to 1, I want to run the following, but it shouldn't pass because that is a 9, right? So it should never get in here.
It's also doing something weird because it's adding the spaces back, but not actually adding the hyphens as well. So it's breaking somewhere between that formatting.
Yeah. Let's run this again. +7. Yeah, I don't know what the heck is happening here. Of where they could possibly be added into there. Because here, I'm not adding formatted number until it's after it's been formatted. And then once again here, they got hyphens. They got hyphens here. But here it's being added in here without hyphens, but still taking a plus sign.
Shouldn't for our else statement there at close to the bottom, numbers, customers, shouldn't that be foreign dictionary or our foreign customers?
Yeah, foreign customers is going to take in the name of the customer.
Above it where we added numbers, index customer.
You are right. Foreign customers. Could that be it?
No.
No.
Mm.
It's okay. I don't know what's happening here. I'll take my time to debug it. But for the most part, that is about 95% of the assignment. I just got to go back and ensure where my one of these is passing when it should not be passing. I can't for the life of me figure it out here. Uh, but I'll check later on. Time is 9 to 1, so I don't want to waste any more time. But hopefully that gave you a better idea of how to navigate these problems or how to engage these exercises and where your mind should be when looking at them, right? Take advantage of variables and data structures, right? We didn't just learn them for no reason. So you can obviously create new variables, manipulate them, use the built-in methods, use comparison operators, if else checks to accomplish your task. I'm not quite sure where this one's breaking. It's giving me some weird. Nowhere here am I adding it there with a plus and not have hyphens, which is what's really throwing me off.
Also, I just noticed something. For your for loop at the bottom where you're printing, you're only printing out of numbers and not out of foreign customers either.
Right. That's what I'm doing. I was only trying to see numbers. So they're being added to
Oh, gotcha.
numbers when they shouldn't be, right? And at no point am I doing that. The only one that's getting added to numbers is here. So it's telling me it's somewhere around here. It's breaking. I don't know. I don't know. I'll have to check. This is definitely very weird. I'm so confused of why it's doing this. But that should be interesting to figure out. And then we'll talk about this tomorrow once we come back to class. But as of right now, that's going to conclude today's class. Tomorrow we'll be working with the Powerball. But thank you guys for showing up. I will see you guys on Wednesday. Sorry, I didn't mean to say tomorrow. I will see you guys on Wednesday. I'll stay here for another 5-10 minutes to answer any questions. If not, y'all have a good night.